everyone. Welcome to my birthday week. Many of you know that I celebrate my birthday month, but man, I really lean into my birthday week. And this headband is actually new. It's my inaugural wearing of it, and it has 3 settings. It's currently on the 3rd. But because of the glare on the TV and because I know some of you would not be able to pay attention, we're just going to go ahead and put that on. Oh, just kidding. Oh, hey! Battery save mode. Now, I used to have what some would call an addiction. And no matter if you are in 7th, 8th, or 9th grade, I don't think you'll know about this addiction that I had. Many of you know that I am or was addicted to Diet Coke. I've been drinking Diet Coke since I was 10 years old. It's a long time. I call it the drink of God. I don't know if it actually is, but in my heart it is. And I used to drink Diet Coke from what was called a Moose Cup. You could get it at Hardee's. It was one of the first takeaway cups I ever experienced in my life, and it was a 32-ouncer. Now, most would say that 32 ounces is a lot of Diet Coke, but for me, it still wasn't enough. Hence the start of my next addiction. I needed larger beverage containers to hold that Diet Coke. 32 ounces, 46 ounces, yeah. 52-ounce mugs, yeah. But 100-ounce mugs? It was the ultimate. My friend Gregory found this for me in Nebraska and bought it for me, and I ended up with 3 100-ounce mugs. But students, I had 52 mugs total, ranging from 32 ounces to 100 ounces. And before you were in the junior high, if ever I was around you, I would be carrying one of those mugs. I joked that I would switch back and forth from hand to hand so that I could work my forearms because there was so much beverage. It literally took effort and muscle to lift it to my mouth. But for whatever reason, I don't even remember why, I just lost my interest in mugs. And now you need to understand I've actually lost my interest in Diet Coke. Can you believe it? I did a 30-day food challenge that did not allow me to drink Diet Coke. All I drank was bubbly water and water. And on day 31, when I got a 52-ounce Diet Cherry Vanilla Coke for the first time, I took a big drag and all I could taste was the chemicals. I hated it. It tasted disgusting because my body had shifted, my taste buds had shifted, and I decided, well, most information and culture would tell me that it's not good for me. And so I've not had a drink of Diet Coke since the end of August. But my addiction to mugs has shifted as well, which brings us to our idea of today, and that is that even though we all value different things, we tend to value things based on what they can give back to us. So maybe it's that new pair of shoes that keeps us feeling like we're cool, or a new camera that makes our YouTube videos look much more professional. Sure, it's not the only reason why we like those things, but it matters, and it certainly doesn't hurt. And it's different what we all like or what we're all into, but here's what's the same. When that thing or that activity stops giving back to us, stops making us feel good, we give it less value. We stop giving it value. We begin to treat those things like they matter less and less to us. Case in point, I only have 12 out of my 52 mugs left, and they literally are collecting dust on a shelf in my laundry room. And I cannot even remember the last time that I used one. Now, when you stop caring as much about the things that you have value in, it's not a huge deal. But here's another side to things that we value. human beings. Now, I know this is a tough truth, but think about it. When people can't do something for us or give something to us in return, we often treat them like they don't have any value or they don't have any importance. I would say the only two exceptions to this statement are babies and puppies. Think about it. Babies and puppies can't do anything for you, right? And actually, it's the opposite. We do everything for them. Babies can't feed themselves. They can't change their own diapers, right? Puppies, they have to go outside. They have to be cared for. They have to have their nails trimmed. Like, I think of all that I did. This is baby Hadley, by the way. For Hadley, when she was a puppy, she gave nothing back to me except for her cuteness, but I loved her. But they're the only two exceptions. Now, the way we treat the people that we're spending time with, it really, really matters. And we show our value to human beings in the way that we use our words, in our actions, and in our thoughts. That's how we display the value. And I need you to understand that the way we treat the people we're spending time with matters. And as you're moving through your teenage years, I know that it has gotten harder and harder to treat people well because you've discovered things about people you didn't know about before, like people in your family. Maybe you've discovered that your uncle is a little prideful, or that your grandma is a little manipulative, or that your older brother is pretty opinionated. And so maybe treating them well is harder now that you're in your teenage years. But as we talk about this series, Awkward, this month, I want us to know that the way that we treat people that we're attracted to shows whether we value them or not. And as I've hung out with teenagers, I've seen ways that they show not value in how they treat other people. So maybe they say things about bodies or personalities that aren't respectful. Or maybe they think about others in ways that don't show value to them. Or maybe they ask them to participate in behaviors that don't show them the value that they deserve. This whole phenomenon of sending nudes or sending pictures that are very suggestive and where people aren't wearing much clothing, if any clothing at all, just has blown my mind as a youth pastor. And I think, wow, the guts and the gall that it would take for someone to ask for a picture like that. I just feel like you are blatantly saying, I don't value you as a person. I only value you for what I can get from you. Or maybe we ask people to behave in ways that make us feel good, but it is not a good situation for them. Or certainly I think many of us have pressured others into doing things that they're not comfortable with. Which brings us to our next truth. When we don't treat others like they have value, we wind up treating them like objects instead of people. So maybe when you first liked that guy, you saw him as a person, when you first had feelings for him, but now they just don't seem to have as much value because maybe he's not doing what you want him to do or behaving in the way that you want him to behave. Have you ever felt like someone was treating you like an object? It is an awful, awful place to be and an awful thing to experience. And sometimes we do it without even knowing it. We're selfish creatures by our nature, and so we often naturally want to put ourselves first. But what that often communicates is, you don't have value, and I just want something from you because you have shifted to an object to me. So here's a truth on the flip side. Every one of us wants to be valued. And I think this is where I'm confused the most when I see others and when I myself have treated other people like objects. It doesn't make sense because I would never want to be treated like an object. I want to be treated as valued, as precious, as somebody who's wanted for good reasons. So, what does God have to say about all of this? He's got something to say, of course. The God of the universe who created each of us on purpose and with purpose believes that we have value and that we have importance. And so we need to follow in that same belief. And we have to understand first that we have value simply because we are made by God. And not just us, but then shouldn't we give that same consideration to other people? That they have value simply because they were made by God. Just think for a moment about how that would change the way that you see people, the way that you behave, and certainly the way you interact with people that you like in a romantic way. How do we know that this is true, that we all have value because we're made by God? Well, we go back to words of Jesus that are found in the book of Mark chapter 12. And as was usual, the religious leaders were trying to get in the face of Jesus and trick him. And they asked him what the most important rule or law was that they were to follow. There were over 300 Levitical laws that the Israelites and that Jews were asked to follow. And what Jesus told them surprised them completely. And here's what we find in Mark 12, 30 through 31. He said, "And you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. The second is equally important. Love your neighbor as yourself. No other commandment is greater than these." So often I talk with students and they tell me that they feel like Christianity or following Jesus is so complicated. And I get that in some ways, but I always point them back to this passage to say, when Jesus had to narrow it down, when he had to simplify it, he said, here's what it's about. Love me and love other people. That's it. Love me and love other people. How this translates is that God wants us to know that he cares deeply about the way that we treat every person. And if we want to follow God's great command, then we need to start with value. And not just for ourselves, because that's pretty easy or wanting, but for others too. And this definitely applies to our topic at hand of sex and sexual desires. So we've talked about in the last couple of weeks this phrase called sexual integrity. It's the idea that whether we are in public or in private, we are making decisions about sexual things and our sexual desires that are honoring of God, that are honoring of ourselves, and that are honoring of other people. And if we see people as having great value simply because they were created by God, we should want to live with sexual integrity. But then there's this whole truth, right, of the hormones that are raging through you and your eyes being opened to the opposite sex like they were not open in third grade. And the attraction is strong and the desire is great. But do you value that person you're attracted to as a person and not just somebody who can give you something or make you feel good? So we have to choose and love. We have to choose to love and respect other people, but I think it starts with ourselves. Do you respect yourself enough to say no if somebody asks you to do something physically that you're not comfortable doing. Or when somebody tries in the back of the bus or in class or at a sleepover to get you to look at a website that you know that you shouldn't. That's sexually driven. Do you value yourself enough to say no to that? Whatever it looks like for each of us, we need to start treating ourselves like we have the value that God says that we have. Because how you treat others and yourself matters to God. I have this equation that I like to talk about, which is surprising to hear me say that just because you know that I do not like math. But what I do remember from math is that 1/2 plus 1/2 equals 1. Well, some people, I find, try to take that equation and transfer it to romantic dating relationships. And they feel like if I find my other half, then I will feel complete, I will feel whole again. And I would say it goes back to the fact that they don't see themselves as having value, and they don't see another person as having great full value. So I like to introduce what I call biblical math. And I'll teach more on it because it's a big concept, but basically 1 plus 1 equals 1. One whole healthy person plus one whole healthy person equals one whole healthy relationship. And I know so often it's easy to focus on the other one, right? Like what it is you want in someone. He needs to be tall. She needs to be beautiful. He needs to be athletic. She needs to be a good cook. But it's most important that you focus first on your one. Do you believe that God created you in his image and that you are whole and complete, lacking nothing? Because I promise you, if you don't get to a place where you're pursuing that, you'll never enjoy a dating relationship. You'll never feel like it is something that is good and healthy. So it starts with us believing that we have that value, which leads us to our action points for this week. If you're willing to consider this idea of value, ask yourself, do I believe that I have value to God, others, and myself? So before you enter into a situation that is sexual or fueled by sexual desires, ask yourself this. And if the answer is no, then I feel like you maybe got to do a little work. And then the second question is, what would it look like for me to treat this person in a way that honors God? Now, this is a question we should ask ourselves, but how great would it be if you as a friend would ask this question of somebody that you knew was interested in someone else? So maybe you've got a girlfriend who's talking all about this boy that she really likes and how hot he is, or you've got a guy friend who's talking about a girl who he wants to get with. Imagine if you simply asked them the question, what would it look like for you to treat her or him in a way that honors God? Because this brings it back to value. Now, I want to be real for just a moment. And my guess is there are some of you who are watching or listening, and you don't feel value at all. And it's probably based in the fact that somebody treated you like an object. Somebody treated you in a way that they just wanted something from you and they had no commitment to you, and they probably left. They probably broke up with you. They probably denied anything of an association with you. I don't know what the case is, but I just want you to know I'm just so sorry that that happened to you. It's not the way that it should be. And you need to hear me say that despite that history, despite that relationship, you have value. You have value because God created you in his image with purpose and on purpose. And you can start living right now in that truth that you have value, and make smart choices in who you connect yourself with in the future, who you choose to say yes to, and the things that you choose to engage with. Because the truth is, how you treat others and yourself matters to God. You have value. The person you're interested in has value. And if you can treat that person and yourself with that kind of value, it changes everything. So God, as we think about our relationships we're in currently, would you just help us to see others with the value that you see them with, that you've created them with? God, it just starts with even those who we walk by in the hallway or in our neighborhood or in our own home. But specifically for this topic, God, would you allow the girls to see guys as valuable, and for guys to see girls as valuable, not because of what they can do for them, but because they were created by you. In Jesus' name, amen. Thanks for listening. Thanks for digging deep into a tough topic. I'm proud of you, and happy my birthday week.